and look forward to its early passage.
Call Julianne Genter.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the criminal procedure legislation bill. Because this is a very non-controversial bill that makes a number of technical amendments and minor fixes, we have no problem supporting this legislation at first reading. But I'd like to, in this speech, raise two concerns. Initially, the initial criminal procedure reform and modernization bill, when it initially came up in the last term of Parliament, the Green Party had serious concerns about that bill, in particular because it reduced access to jury trials, in our view. And what we've seen, I think, in the justice area from this government is a pattern of restricting access to justice. Some of that through the changes to the family court, the changes to legal aid. There is a definite pattern on the part of this government to trade off core principles like fairness for cost-cutting or efficiency. And it is the Green Party's view that it's simply not possible to trade off a core principle of democracy, fairness, access to justice for the sake of efficiency. It's simply not possible. And secondly, which was highlighted by previous speakers, in particular Charles Chauvel, is the poor process that has been adopted by this government time and time again with legislation. So what we have here is a bill that needs to be passed quite quickly in order to make a large number of technical fixes. And, of course, it is quite possible that we wouldn't be in the position of having to take up the time of the House on something so uncontroversial and non-substantive if there had been a good process adopted in the beginning. And, of course, that is something that we've seen time and time again. One thing that's been great this year is we haven't seen as much urgency as was applied in the last term of government. But this idea that somehow you can take a heavy-handed approach, single-minded sort of our way or the highway, we're going to rush in and impose our view and not take the time to consult properly, to work collaboratively with members across the House, actually doesn't save time. It doesn't result in better outcomes. It results in that time of the House being taken up for non-substantive legislation. So those would be the two concerns that I would like to highlight in speaking to this bill. The Green Party doesn't have any objection to the technical fixes, but we are certainly concerned about the pattern of poor lawmaking and of restricting access to justice that we consistently see from this national government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Cam Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A huge pleasure to take a brief call on this, the criminal procedure legislation.